Hello, and welcome to the third episode of our podcast RNV Talks, in which we will be discussing many different aspects of the history and culture of the Roma minority. This podcast is released as part of the project EUROMIJA, arranged by the Roma National Council of Croatia in the framework of the European Solidarity Corps. Today, our third talk will be about the Romani language, one of the languages spoken by Roma groups. A podcast about the Romani language, we need to start with general information. Romani belongs to Indo-Aryan languages, or sometimes they are called Indic languages. It means that it is related to some of the languages spread in the peninsula Hindustan, such as Bengali, Hindi, Punjabi, and some others. How did linguists establish the connection between Romani and Indic languages? The historical homeland of the Romani language was established quite late. It was only in the 18th century that linguists started to compare the Romani language with ancient and modern Indic languages. The first person who suggested the connection between the Romani language and Indian languages is traditionally considered to be the Hungarian pastor Vale Istvan in the 1750s. He compared the language of Roma living in Hungary with the language of students from Malabar coast in India. A couple of years later, through the efforts of linguists John Rudiger and Jacob Brandt, the Romani language was recognized as an Indo-Aryan language. Close detailed analysis of relationships between Romani and Indic languages was published in 1844 by German linguist August Ott.
Similar in name to the so-called Romance languages, Spanish, French, Italian, but in terms of linguistic kinship, as we have found out, it is very far from them.
Yes, the Romani language is very, very distantly related to the Romance languages. Roma is an endonym or self-name of these people. In the ancient state of the Romani language, there was a special consonant which is called retroflex of cerebrum D. You can pronounce this sound by curling your tongue back. In modern dialects of the Romani language, this consonant is not pronounced this way anymore. But you may find many versions of its pronunciation, but all of them are more or less close to R sound.
The Lon people live in the Transcaucasus, Armenia, southern Georgia, and northeastern Turkey, among whom the Lomaran language is widespread. The language is also known as Bosa and Bosha. The name Lon, like Roman Dom, historically comes from the same root, with the same ancient retroflex consonant. All three languages are united by a common origin and considered as Indic languages. According to the linguists, Lomaran is on the verge of extinction as the number of people who speak the language is rapidly declining, although a precise number of speakers is unknown. Lomaran is an unwritten language, that is, texts created in it have not been discovered, and the main collection of linguistic material is a monograph by the German researcher and professor at the University of Bern, Nicolas Spain. It is worth saying that the language retains its original vocabulary of Indian origin, but the grammar has been significantly influenced by the Armenian language.
The Roma live in close contact with other peoples, which from a linguistic point of view indicates that local languages influence on Romani and vice versa, as evidenced, for example, by lexical borrowings. Here it is worth noting and discussing such a phenomenon as para-Romani, mixed languages based on Romani and one of the local languages.
Romani people have always lived in close contact with other linguistic communities. Therefore, the Romani language does not exist in isolation. Most Romani people are bilingual from an early age, learning both Romani and the language of the majority population around them. These forms typically emerge when Romani stops being used as a fully fledged community language, but is retained in fragments to maintain cultural identity and in-group communication. Para-Romani is a variety of mixed Romani languages that contain a mixture of Romani lexicon and non-Romani grammar. Anglo-Romani is a clear example of this. Spoken by some English Romanical communities, it blends English grammar with Romani-derived words. As many Romani settlers arrived in Great Britain between the 16th and 18th century, over time much of the grammar was slowly lost, and nowadays it is common in Romani communities to speak mostly English, but using a variety of Romani vocabulary, such as terms including mokedi, which means unclean, or gauge, which refers to the non-Roma people. Many terms, including togs and scran, have made their way into mainstream UK slang over the years and have become a staple part of British vernacular.
Language data make a significant contribution to the study of the history of the people, and here's an example from Italian. Understanding Roma history is a challenge for scholars, and when it comes to the Roma presence in Italy, the trail is especially hard to follow. After their first recorded arrival in Bologna in 1422, Roma left few written traces. So how can we reconstruct their history? That's where Professor Elisa Novi Chavarria comes in. In 2012, she published a fascinating study titled I cognomi del popolo Rom, or Roma people's surnames. Her idea is simple but powerful. Since the Roma didn't leave behind written records, we should turn to alternative sources like judicial, tax, and demographic documents, not originally meant to track Roma people, but which might hold hidden clues. How can surnames be used to reveal history? And also, are surnames understood the same way also among Roma? In most societies, surnames connect generations and signal family ties. Ancient Romans, for instance, used a three-part name system where the cognomen often started as a nickname and later became hereditary. Think Cicerone, throne Cicero, meaning chickpea. For Rome communities arriving in Europe, however, the naming system worked differently. Coming from Tainite tribes, they were suddenly part of much larger societies where names became important for identification. This led to the adoption of ethnonyms, names based on ethnicity. In Italy, Roma were often referred to as Zingari, Gypsies, or Egizi, Egyptians, and these labels became the root of many Roma surnames. In southern Italy, documents from the 15th and 16th centuries list families with names like the Gypsies or the Gizio, which are likely of Roma origin. Other surnames, like Zingaro, Zingarelli, and Zingaretti, became more widespread, especially Zingarelli, found from north to south, though notably absent in some regions. But by the 17th century, things shift. Roma began adopting patronymic surnames, names based on the father's first name. Think, for example, Alessandro di Michele, meaning Alessandro, son of Michele. This mirrors English names like Williamson or Slavic names like Nikolic. These naming patterns help scholars trace Roma migrations and integration over centuries. Some surnames are still in use today, offering a rare continuity between historical and present-day Roma communities.
What are the limits of this research?
Unfortunately, the biggest limit of this research is that it doesn't apply to the more recent Roma arrivals of the 1990s from Romania, Bosnia, and Kosovo, who often live in informal settlements with limited access to integration policies. Additionally, their marginalization from Italian society often excludes them from many data collection projects carried out by institutions or other civil organizations. Still, this work opens a new path, one that could inspire similar research in other countries. Because when we understand the long-standing presence of Roma in European societies, it becomes easier to see them not as outsiders, but rather as a part of a shared history.
As we've seen, the Romani language offers not only linguistic insights, but also valuable clues to the complex history and migration of Roma communities across the world. From its roots in the Indo-Aryan language family to its evolution through contact with local cultures, whether in the form of Romani dialects or shifting naming practices, Romani reflects a story of resilience, adaptation, and identity. Language data, like that uncovered in Italy through surname research, reminds us that, even in the absence of written records, history leaves traces. Studying the Romani language is not just about words, it's about people, their journeys, and the culture they have shaped and be shaped by.
That was all from us for today. We hope you enjoyed our little talk. You can find the link to all the articles we wrote on these topics in the description of this episode. Don't forget to follow us on our social media accounts and website to stay in touch with us and our job here at RNV. Bye!